more to come. We've got a few messages we want to bring you. We'll be back with more of the 2015 31st Annual Wings Over Houston Air Show in just a couple of minutes.
Are you looking to get away? Maybe during the holidays. Texas Bay Credit Union has a great...
Yes, as you mentioned, he's got a curved tail, almost like the Curtiss, and we'll see some Curtiss aircraft later on in the show.
There is also an aircraft that just is circling around at tail end Charlie with its tail toward us now, banking around to the left, and that's a Stinson airplane, very recognizable by its gull wing. And the Stinsons, the early Stinsons, there was an L5 Stinson Sentinel. The other L birds from those era were, as you mentioned, like an Aranca Champ or a Piper Cub or an Interstate Cadet. All of those very small liaison and observation aircraft, L&O airplanes. But the trainers, the primary ones, were the Ryan Cornells, the monoplane. They had a plane. So the Ryan Cornell actually had a total of three different main models and a number of sub-models under that are listed in a lot of history books. The PT-17 Stearman was also not only flown by the United States Army Air Corps and by the United States Navy and Marine Corps, but also by the Royal Canadian Air Force, and they called it the Cadets. The Stearmans, as we see go by here, also being trailed, could have thousands of numbers different among. I've seen 10,000 routinely, but you see more than that.
Exactly. You know, and as you mentioned yesterday, in the school up for manufacturing, the emphasis was on getting airplanes out the door, not necessarily keeping accurate records. We do know a pretty good estimation of all the aircraft that were built, but as you said, the historians disagree sometimes.
That first phase of training, in the primary training phase, 75 hours and students were washing out right and left. The basic training, also 75 hours of training. And the advanced training, the last aircraft that they would see would be the Texan before moving on to the fighters or to the larger aircraft like the bombers taxiing in front of us now, or the cargo aircraft like the C-46, the C-47, even the smaller cargo aircraft like the B-17 became the AT-7 or AT-11 Kansan, or aircraft like the Lockheed Lodestar, which is also taxiing down the line right now. Training accidents were actually very, very numerous, and a lot of cadets died. Rather than walking out, they were actually killed, as were in many cases their instructors, and that was a tough time to lose an aircraft during training. Matter of fact, as one might expect that the safety rate would increase as a cadet became more familiar with the aircraft, even into the advanced phase. The training syllabus was causing a lot of pilots to lose their lives, and they had to rethink the training syllabus. The Texans, the North American Texans, found themselves serving actually long after World War II. B-25 Mitchell bomber, a medium bomber. Now that has two 17 horsepower Wright Cyclone engines on it, I believe, that I recall. Watch to the right. Now it's a little farther away, but the B-17 Flying Fortress is going to take off with four 1,200 horsepower engines on it. They are actually quiet. Sometimes 200 and 300 of these aircraft, all on a mission to destroy a certain target or group of targets. So once they got formed up, they would be under attack over the enemy territory from the Luftwaffe fighters. As they got closer to the target, the fighters would pull off, and the anti-aircraft fire would be initiated from the ground, reaching altitudes of 20,000 feet or more, to explode at altitude and knock some of the bombers out of the sky. As they were on their bomb runs, the bombers could not deviate from the course and were sitting ducks for some of that some of that kind of flying. And then, if they weren't damaged beyond repair or shot out of the sky, they would have to fly back through more flak and encounter more fighters as they try. Well, we're not going to hear the B-17 yet because the Me-262 is coming by. We saw B-25 take off. That B-25 is representative with 4 500-pound bombs in each of the airplanes, bombing targets in Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, and Yokohama. It was the Doolittle raid. Bases in China and then fly home because the carrier fleet was discovered by a Japanese picket boat some 400 miles farther out than they were supposed to initially launch the mission. Some of the crew members drowned during crash landings. Some were captured by the Japanese and killed as war criminals. Others, flying into worsening weather, flew until the engines quit and bailed out into dense fog, not knowing where the ground was and hitting the ground without even being able to see it. The Doolittle raid, 80 men, and only 2 are still alive today, and 1 is here with us in our Heroes and Legends tent, the big white tent behind us here at Show Center, who is in his 90s and is here today. How old is he?
He just celebrated his 100th birthday.
100th birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Would you join me in a round of applause for Dick Cole? Me-262 takes off, the first operational jet fighter of World War II. The Me-262, first speed of over about 540 miles per hour. It could outrun anything else in the sky, and it was a formidable opponent, and nobody knew how to handle it at first because they just couldn't beat it in a dogfight, but they figured out a way that they could actually attack successfully in Me-262 with a Mustang or a Lightning or a P-47 as it comes by. The Spitfire was powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. But here comes the 262 again. Kindleberger said he didn't want to build somebody else's airplane, and he said, give us 120 days. And believe it or not, 117 days later, a brand new airplane to the world rolled off the production line at North American Aviation's plant. Ladies and gentlemen, paper mache type drop tanks on the Mustangs be used to help protect the bombers. Radio, ladies and gentlemen, has keyed his radio and is locking up communication. Frank, and the pride and valor that will give you a sense of inspiration for those who have not experienced the war firsthand, and more importantly, to honor all veterans and their loved ones while inspiring the next generation. The Texas Flying Legends Museum is dedicated to honoring past generations and inspiring the leaders of tomorrow through active display of World War II aircraft. And they fly to remind us of the values and freedoms that make our country great and to challenge visitors to give back to their local community. They're doing their part to ensure that the United States of America remains the land of the free and the home of the brave. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Rosendahl from the Texas Flying Legends Museum, and a huge had a radiator. Take a look at the bottom of the airplane and you can see the radiator scoop, and I'll tell you something else about that piece of technology. Doug stopping the airplane every 45 degrees doing an 8-point hesitation roll. That radiator scoop about halfway back on the bottom of the aircraft, a lace between the fuselage and the top of the scoop, that smooths the airflow, increased it, and as the hot air came out the back of the Mustang, it actually created some jet thrust called Barrett's effect, which speeded up the airplane, gave it a few more miles per hour top speed. Here comes from the right, the Mustang on a fast pass, Doug Rosendahl. Very easy to see that radiator scoop there. That piece of... That is Rod Lewis's F7F Tiger Cat. From the Lewis Air Legends. The F7F Tiger Cat came into use very, very late in the war. His name was Fred Trapnell. He was a captain in the Navy, and he said of the F7F Tiger Cat, as we get there, guys. The big tail beast. The Avenger, the type flown by the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, when he was only 20 years old. He was shot down and spent 4 hours in the ocean until he was picked up by an American submarine. What submarine? And in 1976 to 1978, that television show was on the TV. Waited 30 seconds for the tube to warm up, if you remember back that far. You might hear something like this. We are poor little lambs who have lost our way. Passage, you've got a bit of a story. Let's wait on for just a second.
Well, as we're watching the airplanes in your photo pass, the SB-2C, the Helldiver, as you mentioned, the only flying example of that airplane in the world, is really a wonderful story that goes with the commemorative air.
It's challenging for the Zero to roll to the right because of the normal strength of the pilots being able to roll more easily to the left. But now, let's watch a reenactment of the F4U Corsair and the Zero, an engagement that happened quite often in the Pacific Theater. On the Bandit. But the Zero, able to outmaneuver and loop very quickly, does a loop, and now will accelerate. Speed is overtaken by the higher speed of the F4U Corsair. Jigging to the right and to the left, it now has taken fire from the 850 caliber machine guns located in the wings of the F4U Corsair. But from the left, here comes a photo pass of two former adversaries, now friends at the Texas Flying Legends Museum.